The hallway felt tight. Maybe I imagined it, but Mark seemed to crowd me as I passed. Always so clueless. I caught a whiff of something sweet on his neck, something that definitely wasn't mine. That stupid rose soap I keep in the guest bathroom? Whatever. I had bigger things on my mind. Those theater tickets in my purse were burning a hole in my conscience. Another 2 weeks before the show, and Mark, stupid, oblivious man, still hadn't noticed. The tickets were for Emily and me, a way to get out of town for the night. He wouldn't ask, wouldn't think twice. It was stupid how easy this was. Emily's text popped up, a laughing emoji and 3 hearts. God, I loved her. My fingers flew across the keyboard, a flirty little comment that'd make her grin. If I couldn't be bold with her, what was the point? The guilt jabbed at me, but who was I kidding? This was way past a guilty crush. The butterflies in my stomach whenever I saw her name on my screen, that wasn't normal friendship stuff. Then it hit me, that damn credit card statement. We're not exactly rolling in money, and that little inn in Emily's town wasn't cheap. Weekend getaway, my ass. Mark was bound to see that charge. Sweat prickled my neck. I'd lied about something work-related, thrown together some excuse about a conference. I'd have to come up with a better story. Fast. Maybe a last-minute girls' trip with my old college buddies? Yeah, that could work. If only it didn't feel like one giant lie layered on top of another. I couldn't do this to Mark forever. The sneaking around, the constant fear of getting caught. It was exhausting. But the thought of stopping, of not seeing Emily, that was unbearable. Emily was my escape. Every giggle, every stolen touch, it was like air after being suffocated for years. Mark used to be fun, but that spark had been gone longer than I cared to admit. I couldn't tell him, couldn't break his heart. He was decent, I guess. Reliable. But Emily, she made me feel alive. Had to be worth it, right? This kind of passion, this head over heels feeling. That was once in a lifetime stuff. The damn phone rang right as I was curling my hair. I scrambled for it, hissing a quick, "Hey babe," into the receiver. Emily's voice crackled on the other end, bright and giggly. "Guess what?" she said, and I could practically see her grin through the phone. Before I could respond, Mark's footsteps headed toward the bathroom. Panic clawed at my throat. "Gotta go." I practically squeaked into the phone, slamming it down before Mark walked in. "Just checking in?" he asked, a strange look in his eye. Damn it, should have gone into the bedroom for privacy. "Nah, just a junk call," I lied, trying to shrug it off. But his eyes were narrowed, suspicious. Did he hear anything? Emily was so damn bubbly, it wasn't like I could hide who I was on the phone with. Mark lingered, and my heart thrummed against my ribs. Was I imagining it, or was that a flash of something? Hurt? Anger? I busied myself with my lipstick, avoiding his gaze. When he finally left, I slumped against the sink. This had to stop. Later that night, as Mark snored beside me, I crept to the bathroom. My hands trembled as I rifled through the drawers. Where was that damn bra? The black lace one Emily had raved about. I swore I tucked it in the back. My fingers closed around it, silky and a little scandalous. A rush of guilt, a thrill of defiance. Damn, it felt good to have something that was mine, just mine. Mark mumbled something in his sleep and rolled over. I froze. God. What would I tell him if he found this? But he didn't, and I slipped the bra into my pajama pocket, a secret burning against my skin. The next few days were a blur of stolen glances and whispered phone calls. Emily and I were supposed to have a regular girls' night with our mutual friends, but something in me was screaming to get away, just the two of us. "Hey, babe," I said to Mark one morning. "Remember how Lisa and the girls wanted to do drinks next week? I'm kinda tired. Maybe I'll just stay home." His eyebrows shot up, that look of suspicion back in his eyes. "Are you sure? You guys always have fun." I'll go next time," I said, forcing a smile. Mark wanted me to be happy, even if he was clueless about why I wasn't anymore. If he only knew. My stomach was a knot of nerves. The rose-scented candle still sat on the bathtub rim, a silent accusation. Mark was getting suspicious, I could feel it. I had to do something to throw him off. One morning, over coffee, I forced a bright smile. "Hey, remember that cute bed and breakfast we always said we'd go to? Maybe a little weekend trip? Just us?" Mark's brow furrowed. "Sure, babe." That kinda came out of nowhere, though. He wasn't buying it. My hands shook as I poured more coffee. I hated lying to him. But if this bought me more time with Emily, a way to play the doting wife for a few days, then it was worth it. The family dinner a few nights later was a disaster waiting to happen. Mom on my left, Mark right across from me, and Emily seated directly in his line of sight. I couldn't eat, my heart pounding every time Emily flashed that smile in my direction. So, Mom chirped, "Sarah, how's work been lately?" I fumbled for something, anything, to say, but then I felt it, Mark's stare burning a hole through me. Did he know? Could he feel that connection between Emily and me crackling across the table? Across from us, Emily's foot brushed mine under the cover of the tablecloth. A jolt of electricity, a reckless thrill, shot up my leg. That night, as Mark lay beside me, breathing slow and steady, I thought he was asleep. But I made the mistake of glancing at him, and in the moonlight, I saw his eyes were open, staring up at the ceiling. He knew. God, he knew. The next day, he went out for a long run. I knew he always left his phone on the charger. My hand twitched, the temptation almost overwhelming. It wasn't right to go snooping, but this weight of secrecy was crushing me. I tiptoed into the kitchen, my heart in my throat. There it was, plugged in and buzzing with notifications. I snatched it up, thumbs flying. I knew Emily's name would be there, and it was, dozens of texts, full of emojis and sweetness and things I couldn't even bring myself to read. That's when the world went red. It was like a bomb had gone off inside me. All the lies, the sneaking around, it all came crashing down. Hot tears spilled down my face as I read their messages, their plans, their stupid little inside jokes. I wanted to throw up, to scream, to break something. How could she do this? To me? To Mark? My fingers shook as I dropped Mark's phone back on its charger, my whole body trembling. Emily and him. Those texts. I was a fool. Not just a fool, an idiot. Naive. How had I missed how unhappy he was? Or had it been a lie all along, just like me? The rage burned hotter than shame. Mark came back from his run, clueless and unsuspecting, all sweaty smiles. I wanted to throw up, to scream at him, but I didn't. Instead, something cold settled inside me, a twisted determination. If they wanted to play games, I'd show them how it's done. Mark went right back to his oblivious routine, and for a few days, I pretended everything was fine. I cooked his favorite meals. I smiled. All the while I started paying closer attention. Following patterns. Noting his schedule. It was frighteningly easy. A flash drive tucked in the back of my underwear drawer. A few careful searches on the computer after he went to sleep. Finding places to buy those tiny spy cameras, a burner phone for a number he wouldn't recognize. Then, the hardest part, waiting for the perfect moment. One afternoon he was helping with some yard work, the sun hot on his back. "Hun, could you grab me a lemonade? I'm parched." Maybe my voice sounded a little too sweet. He didn't question it, just patted my butt and grinned as he headed inside. While he was distracted, I slipped the camera into our bedside lamp. No way he'd notice it there, hidden in plain sight. It was like setting a trap, the thrill laced with a strange kind of sickness. That night, as we lay in bed, Mark's snores rumbling next to me, I felt an odd kind of power. I wasn't just his clueless wife anymore. He wouldn't get away with this. A few days later, I couldn't take it anymore. Mark was acting extra cheerful, humming to himself in the kitchen. I cornered him, trying to make it look like I was heartbroken, not furious. "Mark," my voice cracked just the right amount, "I think something's changed." "I'm not sure. Dot, are you happy?" He looked up from his coffee, startled. "Of course, babe. Why do you ask?" My smirk felt like acid. "Oh, I don't know. You just. You seem more excited lately. More energized." His face went a little pale. "Energized? What are you talking about, Sarah?" The game was on. I found Emily's husband's number through one of those creepy people finder websites you see advertised. It cost way too much money, but the rage burning inside me made it worth it. The guy, Rob, sounded as pathetic as I remembered. Whiny, bitter, desperate for someone to blame for his own broken marriage. Perfect. "Look, I don't know who this is," I said into the phone, my voice disguised enough. "I hoped, but I think you should know some things about your wife, Emily." There was a long pause, then, "What kind of things?" His voice was all sharp edges. I hinted, just a few little details at first. Nothing outright, just enough to get him interested. The places I'd seen her car parked those late nights, the way she lit up talking about her best friend. His breathing got heavy on the other end of the line. "Who the hell is this?" he demanded. "Just a concerned citizen," I said, hanging up with a click. That was the easy part. My mom was next. Those anonymous envelopes in the mail, filled with snippets of Emily and my texts. The cruelest ones, the ones filled with lust and mockery. My mom was old-fashioned. She wouldn't understand this kind of betrayal. Shame would wash over her, and shame on me would follow soon after. Then came the big one. Those videos from our bedroom camera, the sickening proof sent directly to my work email. All those late nights, working overtime, weren't so believable now, were they? When the whispers started at the office, the snide looks, I almost lost my nerve. But I forced myself to smile, to act like nothing was wrong. Finally, the last nail in the coffin. One of those cheating spouse websites, a detailed, anonymous post about my lying, manipulative wife, and her poor, pathetic best friend. I even posted some of the videos, carefully edited to make me look like the heartbroken husband and Emily the cruel homewrecker. Mark was watching me crumble. My forced smiles faltered. I stopped eating, snapping at him over little things. He was probably thrilled, the perfect victim act falling right into place. I saw a flash of smug satisfaction in his eyes sometimes, and it fueled my rage even hotter. He didn't know what hit him was coming. Soon, everyone would. It was almost laughable how quickly it all fell apart. The whispers at work became outright stares. Emails with those damn videos started circulating faster than I could delete them. My phone buzzed with texts from Mom, a mix of fury and disappointment. A few cowardly friends sent vague messages about being there for me, which I knew meant they were gleefully waiting for the juicy details. Emily was getting it even worse. Her husband, Rob, had gone full on psycho. He posted screenshots of their texts on her company's Facebook page, ranting about sluts and homewrecker. She got fired, obviously. Then Mark finally decided to make his big move. Cornered me in the kitchen one night, all righteous anger. He slammed a stack of printed out texts and photos on the counter. "Care to explain this, Sarah?" His voice was low, deadly. I tried. I sputtered about misunderstandings, about Emily being in a bad place. Mark scoffed, throwing another pile of papers at me. Bank statements showing the fancy hotel stays Emily and I lied about. "You disgust me," he said, his words like knives. I knew then that it was over. All the begging and pleading in the world wouldn't change anything. He wouldn't listen, he didn't care. The next few weeks were a blur. Mark moved into the guest room, barely speaking to me except through clipped instructions from his lawyer. I got served with divorce papers in front of my gossiping coworkers, the ultimate humiliation. My whole world crumbled. Emily vanished, probably hiding in shame with whatever was left of her life. Friends who used to laugh at my jokes now sent pitying looks, or worse, nothing at all. Mom wouldn't even return my calls. But the worst of it was Mark. The man I loved, the man I betrayed. He looked at me like I was nothing. Once, I thought I saw a flicker of pity in his eyes, but it vanished just as quickly, replaced by a coldness that chilled me to the bone. I'd made my bed, and now I had to lie in it, alone, surrounded by the wreckage of what was once my life. I spent my days in a haze, answering the lawyer's relentless questions, packing up the parts of my life Mark didn't want, trying to find a cheap apartment in a corner of town I could afford. Emily was a ghost. No calls, no texts, vanished as if she never existed. The isolation was crushing. One night, fueled by cheap wine and desperation, a thought clawed its way into my blurry mind. Mark was obsessed with detail, always had been. Those spy cameras, the burner phone, everything was always so carefully planned. But why? Unless. Like a switch had flipped, a horrible clarity washed over me. It wasn't just anger driving Mark, it was calculated revenge. The late-night computer sessions, the strange satisfaction in his eyes, it all clicked. He'd orchestrated this. Every agonizing step. I dug through his desk like a madwoman. Hidden amongst tax files and old receipts was a folder, unmarked. Inside were notes, timelines, screenshots, and a list of websites. The People Finder one, the Infidelity forums, the burner phone receipts were all there. It was like staring at a blueprint for my destruction. A wave of nausea washed over me. I'd been so consumed with my own anger and deceit that I never saw how deep his ran. He wasn't the heartbroken victim, he was the mastermind. The fury that had been simmering turned into a cold, hard dread. The next day, the divorce hearing was brutal. Mark's lawyer presented his evidence, the photos, the texts, painting me as a heartless monster. I sat there, numb, knowing he'd planned it down to the last detail. Even the flicker of smug satisfaction as the judge ruled in his favor felt like a calculated move. Leaving the courthouse, the weight of it all crushed me. I'd been played, outsmarted at my own cruel game. Now, I wasn't just the cheating wife. I was the pathetic, ruined fool. It was a humiliation far worse than I'd ever dished out. Mark had won. But as I walked away, amidst the ashes, a new kind of determination ignited inside me. I wouldn't be his victim anymore. If he wanted a war, I'd make damn sure he regretted